This podcast is a combination of all 31 episodes of RPGaDay 2023 podcast. If you've been listening throughout the month, or if you listen to the 3 episodes that combine them 10 or 11 at a time, you don't need to listen to this episode.
This podcast is part of RPGaDay 2023, a celebration of RPGs by the people who play them. I'm using the keyword prompt provided as a part of RPGaDay to inspire brief story beats in the campaign world of the solo RPG I'm playing. These will be very short, and I will also be grouping them in batches of 10 to release throughout the month and as one big podcast at the end of August. So they can be listened to every day or in smaller amounts or even in one sitting. For more about RPGaDay or my campaign, stay tuned after the story or check the show notes. Day 1. Keyword first. The roars echoed through the mountains and hills. In that portion of the world most often called simply the Outlands, by all but the dwarves, it was evident a conflict among great beasts was playing out. Those in the scattered settlements and outposts listened with mixed curiosity and apprehension. When it stopped, there were those who returned to their routines with relief, and others who discussed expeditions in search of answers. But the next day, all patterns and plans were preempted by the fearsome, fiery death flying out of the skies. Those sages who survived the onslaught would later disseminate the long unconfirmed knowledge of the past. When a dragon nests in a location, the first task of its first days is establishing its place as the first rank power of its new territory, sowing fear and acquiescence in its quest for dominance. Day 2. Keyword Game Master. Charlatan was hurt. Not just the damage to her golden scales and body, but to her pride. She had been preparing for another walkabout, and was not ready for the savage attack that descended upon her. The brutality of the huge ancient one she just couldn't overcome. Thank Bahamut it was a red one. Had it been a blue or black, she'd have been finished. All that time spent studying the world and its creatures and the ways they think and fit together wasted. All the theorizing, thinking she had all the angles covered. How had she not seen the need for always loading up better offensive and defensive spells? And now her arcane tomes were lost with the rest of her hoard. By the time she had snuck back to look, everything had been rearranged and had his essence on it, Vaxenture by his mark. It would take time to recover and plan, but the game was not over. She knew the resources she must gather and how the pieces would fit. She would be the ultimate victor. Day 3. Keyword Vault. To Calgar, Duke of North Ambrose, Your Eminence, I bring to you the glad tidings that your daughter, Varaeus, is alive and well. We recovered her from the ruins of her caravan. No doubt you have heard of the red worm ravaging the Outlands. We found her and her 4 remaining guards after the beast struck. She is in our care. Sadly, her retinue did not appreciate our hospitality. They had to be dealt with. We are but humble freebooters that labor under the name Knights of the Green Hills. Perhaps you know our reputation. We have fallen on hard times since the flames of the big lizard descended on this land. As such, it will be difficult for us to return her to you for less than 11,000 gold pieces. But if you remit it, in confidence of course, to the Fort Etrarch Kingstown Treasury, under the Count of Leyden of Rand, and Varaeus will be turned over to the fort commander unharmed. We eagerly await your reply. Kellen, Leader, Knights of the Green Hills. Day 4. Keyword Recent. To His Royal Highness, King Hexhold, the 6th of his name, the 21st of his line, Master of the Pagos Sea, Maxishan Forest, Plains and Canyons of Alger, Frozen Realms of the South, Rumbasa Desert, Titan Peaks, and Etchark Pass. Sire, it is with glad heart I bring to you the latest news from the fort that guards the northern reach. The red dragon that has ravaged the lands has been slain. An adventuring party from the kingdom's heartlands did the deed. The leader of the expedition, one Sir Gus of the Bailey at Barnum, relayed to me the news with proof. A dorsal scale too large and healthy to have merely fallen off. The sages sent north to help deal with the beast have informed me it is also too healthy to have been removed by battle or aught but harvested from the body directly. I have sent it with this missive for you and your advisors to examine. Your servant, Colonel Edhart of Zandir. Day 5. Keyword, oldest. He was the scion. Did you say something, Edgar? Bernie asked. Edgar looked up from the dried dragon's heart. You see here? He pointed at the center line of the head-sized organ. Bernie leaned in, then squinted in effort. I don't see anything. Exactly, proclaimed Edgar. What exactly are you on about? Inquired Cullen. The rest of the group in the cave had been drawn in. Most dragons have a series of sigils along the center of their heart. It represents their lineage and power. In the presence of a ranking member of their line or species, they can feel those to whom they should accept the authority. As those above them die off, sigils fade. The one at the top of the pecking order in age and power has a smooth heart. What does this mean? Asked Bernie. It means, Edgar looked at one of the eggs, we may have upset the politics of the dragon world. Day 6. Keyword, never. Cruz Sarmta stared deep into the fire. It seemed so long ago that he had bested his father to lead the Dakakamiri in the blessed steppes to the north. The people had been many and mighty. He had challenged the Sand Riders when they encroached, not fathoming the power driving them on. Had he but heeded his father's words. And then the Gopher Riders had inundated the heartland. And after they fled to a new life, they learned why those plains had seemed unoccupied, as the grasses themselves rose in bloody resistance. He made the decision to migrate south, to seek out the old home, and ask the promise of an old king be fulfilled. Then the brigands fell upon them. Of all the credos, never will the Dak know defeat. Never again will the Dak surrender their home. Never will the Dak be vassals. All that remained, never will the Dak be extinguished. Would he fail that too? Day 7. Keyword, smartest. Are you at it again? Smirked Nantor. Katya looked up from the scroll of motes. I can almost see the patterns. Everyone can almost see the patterns. Nantor sipped his tea as he sat. But only those 5, he pointed it to the upper roll of the scroll, have sufficiently deciphered them to cause arcane symbols to take shape. Veral managed to induce 3 to coalesce, and it took him 23 years of study, concentration, and access to a tome from the Elves of Fallen to do so. I find it diverting, and somehow both relaxing and frustrating. Katya's eyes went back to the ever-moving dots of ink. I think Geldor the Grand intended it that way, Nantor mused, to keep us all aware he is the smartest of us all, and keep us from the research that may surpass him someday. Speaking of, we have more to do tomorrow, so maybe... Katya abruptly sat up straighter, arms and hand gesturing as she intoned under her breath. 5 symbols took shape on the scroll. Then she looked up at an agape Nantor and grinned. Day 8. Keyword, character. It was a test. Shantor knew it was a test. Normally, it was just a test of discipline. Take the courier pouch, ensure the seals were fixed and wards in place. Get them to the writer in the morning. Sometimes things weren't set. The contents could be viewed or even taken. He was always successful at resisting the latter, not so much the former. Now he wished he were. If only he hadn't looked, hadn't seen the dragon scale. Shantor had seen the paladin of Safiat talking to the commander, the same paladin leading the latest group targeting the dragon, the same dragon that hadn't been seen since his assault on the fort. Why hadn't the commander said anything? Why was Shantor's oath of discretion being tested? And what would it mean both for him and to him if he failed this test? Day 9. Keyword, dice. Roll them bones, Haltreese cried out as money stacked on the table's edges. Bets are set, so roll them bones. Side bets continued outside the table, and Haltreese made sure his seconds were collecting the house's share. A 3 for the player, and the house takes a 6. No dice eliminated. What luck to have the commander's page Shantor rolling the dice on the main table. He only did that when he was burdened. Burdens he sometimes unloaded when distracted by spirits or the charms of Miss Tala. But he wasn't drinking or looking. It must be something juicy, something valuable. Well, debt can loosen a man's tongue. Of course, he was one roll from a tidy pot, maybe too tidy to continue. But the bones were fickle, and they were bones of a Chiron, impervious to outside influence. But internal influence, Haltreese rubbed his ring. Day 10. Fiction. Do you think the story will hold? Asked James. About us not having killed the dragon? Why not? No one else has succeeded. Not the army, not more seasoned explorers, not mercenaries, bandits, assassins. Failure is expected, and the trophies we turned in for the orcs and ogres more than explain why we're banged up. Gus sounded very sure. Why? Did someone seem suspicious? No, they were mostly laughing at us. But your armor is scorched, and you did tell the fort's commander. My armor would only prove we fought a dragon, not killed it. And the commander won't send word to the capital for 2 days, and that by royal courier. We've got a week before any general announcement at least. What about his confidants in the fort? They're his confidants. I think we can trust in that. Still, all the more reason to move the treasure. They traveled on in silence. Day 11. Keyword, weirdest. Hey you, pick me up. What? Pick me up. Are you a sword? Yeah, pick me up. I'm a sword too. Oh, sorry. I thought you were that neutral good guy. And since the lawful goodies weren't around, I get it. I mean, lawful good is fine, but yeah, I get it. So what's your deal? My deal? Yeah, my deal is killing evil stuff. I don't have a deal. I'm just a sword. Oh, okay. When do you think they'll come back? No idea. Want to play 5 plain dragon squares? Shut up. You go first. Day 12. Keyword, skill. Stay still, thought Jamu. Stay still. The rabbit in front of him timidly moved away from its burrow. Jamu pulled on the bowstring, wincing as the bow groaned faintly. He couldn't afford to scare the creature off. The clan needed food, and there weren't enough seasoned hunters to provide for the entire tribe since the battle. And the women of the group kept arguing with the men about the camels and horses being the clan's future to rebuild. The boys of the tribe were being trained to hunt, earlier than usual for some. Few were coming back with the game. A little closer, he tried to urge the rabbit. Hop, hop, nose twitching, ears up. Hop. Jamu took a deep breath and released. Day 13. Keyword, demise. Harleo's mace clanked as he tapped it against the wall. The few hirelings left looked upon him with a mixture of fear and alertness as he walked by. That was what he wanted. The last 2 days had been harrowing. He had fled the battlefield with the nomads and arrived at their camp house to await the survivors. No one came. Not even that fool Pegrees, who had smirked as he told Harleo he had a foolproof plan to escape if the battle went poorly. Harleo had burned the mage's precious books if he didn't think they might be worth something. Then some of the followers of the Knights of the Green Hills had turned on him. Were they seeking coin or to take the hostages? No way to question the 4 corpses or those who fled after. How long could he trust the others? Maybe he should just end them. That would leave more than enough rations for himself and the hostages until time for the ransoms to arrive. The timing would be crucial. One last score, then start over in the wilderness. Day 14. Keyword, convention. Bertrice, Bertie to her friends, Big Bertha to her idiot brothers when they were out of arm's reach, continued through the family correspondence. Not just the social correspondence as she had done for a long time. All of it, including matters of state and family finance. When Millhart had been let go, Father had sat her down, clued her into the troubles the family had been facing. So many of the rumors had been true. Proper protocol became her work. Father, the Duke, she had to think of him that way in this room, had been leaning more on her and her brothers. A message bearing the stamp of the royal couriers was next out of the pile. It had the family seal securing it. What's this note on the back? Bag appended. What bag? She looked beside the desk. Ah, it clinked as she picked it up. A sigilled lock. She used her wand of opening. Gold. Platinum. Gems? The letter. She broke the seal. Gus's handwriting? Brother, how? You did what? Forgetting all decor, she grabbed the bag and sprinted to the Duke's study. Bursting in, she told the assembled courtiers she needed a moment. To the Duke's questioning glance, she dropped the letter family seal on his desk and, cradling the bag, said, Father, you have to see this. Day 15. Keyword, module/one-shot. The gathered crowd hung on Sir Gus's every word. Others in the group had had their say, but it was his telling of the tale that held them enraptured. He spoke of the battle with the Red Beast, Bernie's initial strike, Gus's own bone-rattling charge, spells and arrows flitting through the air, the dragon's fiery breath and sudden blast of a fireball. He praised all his companions, playing up their gallantry, and in the end he said, one shot to the dragon's throat brought it down with a bloody gurgle, crashing to the earth. Applause and cheers. Who was it? Rang a voice. Sir Gus found a middle-aged man in the crowd. Was that the baker? Gus put a hand to his ear. Who took the one final shot? The crowd quieted. Gus grinned, and with a large sweep of his arm pointed his hand. It was Quinn, and the crowd took up the name. Quinn, Quinn, one-shot Quinn, as Quinn proudly and embarrassedly smiled. Day 16. Keyword, wish. A knock came on Katya's door. Come in. Nantor entered. You need your sleep, young lady. Katya shook her head. Too many thoughts bouncing around. Nantor came closer and lifted up the book from the desk. Permtu's wishes are nightmares, not dreams. Heady stuff. Puts me right out. It's not for that. It's research. Looking to make some wishes? Nantor chuckled. It'll be a while before you're capable. Katya cut him off. I already have, and I think I messed up. Nantor was silent for a moment. Wishes, real ones, are dangerous things. Why did you? Some of my friends were dead. I see. Another pause. They didn't come back the same? Mostly, but one of them seems easily scared now, and the other, I don't know. Nantor nodded. Let's go fix some tea. We'll work it out. Together. Day 17. Keyword, funniest. It had been funny. Edgar had finally gotten Cudgel to take off that ring that seemed to infatuate him. The pestilence under it needed healing. Harl had innocently picked it up to study it. When Cudgel had seen, he demanded it back. Harl had said, "Doesn't seem that special," and tossed it to Quinn. "What do you think?" And as Cudgel approached Quinn, off it went to Sven. And soon a game of keep-away was flowing, with ongoing full-bellied laughs. And when Quinn had surreptitiously pulled out a copper and winged it into a pile of horse dung in place of the ring, laughs turned into rolling on the floor as Cudgel dived in. But the laughter faded as the frantic mage continued to dig in. Quinn slipped the ring to Bernie. "Can you figure this out before we have to give it back?" The mood in the cave soon mirrored the clouds outside. Day 18. Keyword system. Shadonk bump. Calinth almost missed the line for the stamp. The company seal hung crookedly above one side of the line. No one would notice that but me, he thought. Still, he shouldn't have let his emotions distract him. He began rolling the paper with the ease of practice as he scanned the next bill of lading beneath. He reached for the twine to wrap around it. He had a system. Trust the system. Of course, the system had sputtered of late. First, the dragon had destroyed or held up several deliveries. And when Malik went to investigate, he had gotten himself captured. At a time when income was slacking, a ransom was a big outlay. Still, it had to be done. His sources told him the dragon was gone. No one else seemed to know. Work the system, and desperate customers awaited. He smiled as he poured the wax to seal the document. Day 19. Keyword published. Skarshin dipped his quill in the inkwell and put it to the page. After a period of 6-10 days, the dragon became quiescent. Based on its observed size and estimated age, this phase of the dragon's nesting has occurred earlier than anticipated. Skarshin tried to slow his pace. The writing needed to be legible for the scribes to copy. A dragon taking over a new area, so near populated areas, was a rare event. How fortunate he was to be here to see it. Of course, none around him shared his excitement. He'd learned to quit broaching the subject in a positive manner. Sages waited their whole lives to write a book worthy of reproduction in the libraries of others. Already, inquiries from several sage houses requested his first-hand experience. If only he could get out and find the dragon's lair. Perhaps a group of adventurers would be interested in an expedition now that the beast has calmed. Day 20. Keyword 20. "Do you think we'll run into any more orcs on the way back?" James asked. He seemed more curious than nervous. That was the main reason Gus had wanted him on this treasure trip. "They do seem to be moving back in the area, but it's rare for multiple groups to be out and not just fight each other. Still, we don't know what happened to the survivors from that first group." Gus tailed off, realizing that statement was less reassuring than intended. "All the more reason to get back for the big move to the keep," Bernie chimed in. "We're moving?" James was puzzled. "Will we have all the treasure with us?" "No, but what's left will be copper and a little silver. It's been 20 days since we slew the dragon. When the colonel announces it, we'll have treasure hunters out here. Best to be where the bulk of it is." "So you're saying it's going to get more interesting out here?" "I definitely say so." Day 21. Keyword licensed. "All right, you lot," the sergeant yelled. "Pay attention. I'm only going to say this once. This," he flourished a large piece of paper with a gaudy seal and ribbon attached, "licenses you to clear the northern realm of undesirable critters, creatures, and ne'er-do-wells. Without this, you don't get to collect bounties, and you don't get the adventurer's tax rate. I would suggest you stash it somewhere secure in the fort or in town. Don't take it into the wilderness where you can lose it. But this," he held up an ornate iron badge, "you do need to take with you. Without this pass, you do not get through this gate. And chances are, even the merchant's town will turn you away. So keep your credentials close and secure. The main gates will open at dawn. Day 22. Keyword, secondhand. Katya sat down for a quick meal at the Goblin's Gallbladder before returning from filling Master Dantor's shopping list. In the crowded dining area, she couldn't help but overhear the ladies at the next table reacting to the Colonel's recent announcement of the Red Dragon's demise, despite what they probably thought were hushed tones. Thank the seven heavens the beast is dead. That attack turned my prize Petunia deals to ash. I know, but that Sir Gus from Barnum Bailey, isn't that the family that dishonored the Prince Consort? I think you're right. Hard to believe someone from that family could accomplish such a thing. Well, I heard some of his help was elves, or maybe even those elvish mongrels Katya had to keep from tittering when she caught them looking over at her from the corner of her eye. I saw that group come through. They had one of those tree-loving druidish people with them. No, I bet they just made a deal with that dragon. I mean, a disgraced family and elves and druids. You're right. How do we know it's not some scheme to get power for his family? Katya realized she wouldn't be able to eat any more while suppressing her reactions. She dropped a few coins on the table for the servers, then she picked up her bag and walked out, making sure to sweep back her hair as she passed the ladies' table. The sudden silence and agog expressions caused her to explode with laughter after exiting the building. Day 23. Keyword, coolest. Hooley did not like the upper mines. While many of his kin complained of the heat of the lower sections of the main tunnels, Hooley found that much preferable to the tunneling through the mountain peaks. The danger of rock falling down on you or filling the shaft below was greater here. Oh, for a pair of the legendary roof boots for mining from the ceiling. And the tunneling in this section was much nearer the outer wall of the mountain. The cold of the perpetual winter at the top of the God's Ridge came through to even the lower parts of the mountain. Here it was bone-chilling, even for a dwarf. Still, their shaman had said there was value here, and Hooley had found many unusual gems of varied size and quality. A swing of his pick created a rather good-sized fissure in the rock face. He smiled, pleased with the blow, until it began to spread rapidly. Hooley retreated, barely escaping as a large section of the mountain collapsed into the tunnel. Through the narrow opening at the top of the pile of rocks, he could see light come through, and he felt as much as heard the wind. He had breached the mountainside, but how? He shouldn't have been that close. A cave, maybe? As he shivered and an earthly howl filled the cavern, a different chill went through his skin, and a scrabbling sound of moving rock sent him to flight. Pick, shovel, and gems forgotten. Day 24. Keyword, complex, simple. So as you see, Bernie, the individual pieces in Dragon Squares have very simple moves. And in terms of action, they can attack or mediate. Not so much to remember. But the possibilities, the series of moves to win, that is where the strategy arises. That and paying attention to studying your opponent. Cudgel's last statement was obviously directed at Edgar, who was leafing through his journal as he played. Bernie stifled a chuckle. Well, the tiles are a little complicated. No, says Cudgel, as he moves a piece and flips a tile. The tiles track units flying, digging, alliances, and defense. Once you know how to read them, they simplify the game. If you say so, Bernie responded. Once you get the basics down, you and Harl can play and learn together. And you can watch Edgar and I on the occasions when he pays enough attention to be competitive. Cudgel's commentary broke off as Edgar directed a series of moves and tile flips that ended with Cudgel's prime being slain. Hoots of laughter filled the cave as the crestfallen Cudgel facepalmed and Edgar smiled slyly, returning to his journal. Day 25. Keyword, unplayed. Amaroth groaned. Another dead end. Curse this hieroglyphic-strewn maze of a temple. He'd lost track of how long he'd been wandering its corridors and chambers, but he knew 22 was the number of his retinue, killed by the dangers lurking within, and 12 was the number who had abandoned the expedition to return to the surface. He should have gone with the last group. He was no longer sure the way back. Even with the provisions gathered from the corpses of his former party members, he could only last so long. He turned to backtrack and froze as a stone tile on the floor depressed with a click. A series of runes and pictures on the wall lit up. Wait! He knew this sequence. He fumbled for his journal, and then he touched a series of the glyphs. The wall behind him opened, and he entered a vast chamber of pipes. At its center, the fabled organ of Heward. Yes! After all this time, the great artifact stood before him. Dust and webs indicated it was untouched for unknown ages. He eagerly moved towards it. Then he felt another click. Day 26. Keyword, character sheet. Sinomi, goddess of the count, called out, "Next!" and another applicant stepped forward. Name, Meldor the Magnificent, came the reply, the last word hesitant in the presence of a deity. Sinomi reached out her right rearmost hand, and a piece of parchment was placed there by one of her celestial retainers. She handed it to one of her front mid-arms and placed it on the podium before her. A series of ordered numbers delineated this being's physical and mental capabilities, as well as a list of skills, relationships, and accomplishments. You died of firmament flame? The human? It was hard to determine the mundane species from each other. Looked confused. But then, yes, I was trying to create a spell to draw on the power of the stars, and I miscalculated. You summoned it on purpose? Impressive. Naomi flipped the parchment and selected one of a myriad of stamps to apply to it. She picked up a quill. You worship Lathul? Yes, the lord of the magical realm is an inspiration. He may even deign to speak with you. She rolled up the parchment and affixed a sigil ribbon around it. She handed it to Meldor. Purple portal to your left. An attendant of eyes and wings nudged Meldor in the correct direction. Pause, called Sinomi. Time froze for the eternal applicants before her, and she teleported to her abode for a midday meal. Why do you use that tattered thing? Asked Cudgel. This? Bernie tapped his spellbook. It's an Eldritch Gar, first edition. It may be old, but a finer container of Eldritch magics has never been assembled. Cudgel thumped his own tome. The fourth edition is far better. The built-in prompts lead to much better organization. Too formulaic. Magic is personal. The ability to adapt your own style of recording spells yield creativity and better retention. It's a disorganized mismatch of materials. If Katya were here, I'm sure she'd agree. Sir Gus interjected, I think Katya uses a glyphine. Seriously? Cudgel was incredulous. Bernie looked at Cudgel. Isn't glyphine the Eldritch Guard disciple that basically made minor changes to the third edition? Cudgel nodded, and they both burst out laughing. Day 28. Keyword, scariest. Snoutus felt shame. He was an orc. Orcs were strong. Orcs were fierce. The world feared orcs, but Snoutus was scared. After the adventuring party routed his unit, they had fled, running back to the dungeon they had taken refuge in days before. Through the secret doors their leader had found, and up to the sublevel they went. Then some of their number had been killed by the beast before they trapped it in a room. And then some group of adventurers with a wizard had sealed the entrance. No way to get out and hunt. Exploration had led to more deaths from the creatures they now shared a residence with. Now they waited to be slaughtered by some powerful monster. Waited to ambush the adventurers when they returned. Waited to die of starvation. Orcs should not fear, but dying in battle was different from this. Day 29. Keyword, encounter. Hail, friend, you look in need of aid, Farius greeted the battered strangers. Indeed, their leader replied. We ran afoul of hobgoblins near a side trail. We have no healers, Farius responded, but we can provide food, water, and first aid. We are grateful for anything you can offer. Later, as the horsemen departed, Grimald broke into a grin. You saw their banner and crest? he asked his second. From the Barnum Bailey, Kelvit replied. You think they serve the paladin? I believe they are joining him. Perhaps Clestis has blessed our raid after all. Had we not fled the hobbies, we'd never have run into these stalwart soldiers. The hard path is often the richest, Kelvit intoned. Indeed. Have a small team shadow them while we recover and plan. Day 30. Keyword obscure. Are you saying you can make heads or tails of this? Gus asked, gesturing to the map Bernie was holding. The symbology is partially customized, but some of it seems straightforward. And these parts, he tapped the darker drawings, are definitely the self-proclaimed Baron Castle and village of Keystone. You can make all that out, even with the parts of it charred? If you view the cryptic markings as denoting contours and foliage or water features, it comes together, but the castle symbol was obviously added by someone else. So it's straight to the point. What about the writing on the back? A very old dialect. Without magic, I doubt I'd have cracked it. What does it say? It speaks of a powerful device, one that can create or lure warriors to one's cause. Is it nearby? Scale is hard to tell, but based on what else is on the map, a few days to 2 to 3 weeks away. Day 31. Keyword favorite. Are you laughing at me? Asked Russell. Of course I am. You're trying so hard not to show how jealous you are, Patrice replied. Russell sniffed and turned his head away. I'm not jealous. He tried to grit out in a level tone. Bertie grasped and pulled his elbow as she burst out again. Oh, big brother, of course you are. You've been the favored son for so long, and now the black sheep is getting praise and attention. Maybe, Russell allowed. I know you are because I am too. I don't think Father's eyes lit up when I was betrothed as much as they did when he saw Gus's letter in that bag of treasure. I'm sure it wasn't like that. Russ tried to reassure his sister. As he looked at her, he continued, I just don't understand how he did it. Because he's always been so unfocused, Bertie finished the thought. To Russ's nod, she responded, I told you when he returned to his nightly training. He's found something. You did say that, Russ relented. We're going to have to get used to the fact that your twin has found something, Bernie stated. And you know, I'm proud of him. Russ replied with a smile. Me too. He quickly looked at his sister. But I'll deny that if you ever repeat it. Bertie chortled. RPGaDay originated on the blog Autocratic, with a K at the end, .com, 10 years ago as of August 2023. Every August, questions, keywords, or both are provided to inspire people to share their experiences and enjoyment of the hobby in the medium of their choice. My RPG campaign began as a one-shot to answer the question, can a first-level AD&D party kill a huge ancient dragon? I did this in episode 39, Enter the Dragon, of my podcast, and was inspired to continue on in that world. It has been part of my podcast ever since. I believe these RPGaDay minisodes will stand on their own, just as glimpses into a fantasy RPG setting. If you'd like to know more, I encourage you to explore my back catalog from episode 39 onward. I welcome any questions, comments, or feedback. My contact information is in the show notes, and I will also go over those ways of contacting me now. Thank you for listening to Phantom Thoughts. I would love to hear your feedback. You don't have to be part of the show. If you want to contact me and let me know, hey, these are for your eyes only. I just wanted to give you thoughts, ideas, response, and it's really for your eyes or ears only. That's absolutely fine. I'd love to hear from you either way. So just let me know when you contact me. Just, I don't want to be part of the show. There are lots of different ways you can contact me. You can send me an email at phantomthoughtspodcast@gmail.com. And that can be a regular email, or you can attach an audio file to it. You can use the message button on my podcast site on podcasters.spotify.com/pod/show/phantom thoughts. You can contact me via my Google Voice number, 864-209-1441. You can contact me via SpeakPipe at www.speakpipe.com/Phantom Thoughts. You can contact me on Discord, The Pink Phantom. All this contact information is listed in the show notes of every episode. And thank you for those who call in. Thank you for those who don't call in. I appreciate you listening and hope you'll listen again next time. Until then, I hope you have a great day.